Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third GBM of the fall semester. I will be presenting today with Jessica.
Hello, y'all. I'm Jessica, and I'm the vice president. And I'm my fourth year for computer science. And I wanted to include something kind of fun, so I put in my favorite artists. My favorite artists are Bad Bunny, Grimes, and Mac Miller. So it's quite a combination, but it's some good music.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sebastian. I am one of the co-presidents for MAES this year. I'm a fourth year mechanical engineering student. I have fielded interest in themed entertainment, and then my hobbies are swimming, webtoons, reading, boba, and watching horror movies. And I really like Bulbasaur, if you can see that.
So we're having the Boeing Resource Group present and have a panel discussion. So if you're interested in learning more about leadership, then you should definitely join in on that. And it's going to be October 26th at 5 p.m., which is on a Tuesday, I guess. And yeah, so we better see y'all there. We have the little scanning code if you want to scan it. We're going to leave it on there for like a couple of minutes. Okay, I guess we can change.
We also have a leadership opportunities right now. So if you're looking to get involved in an organization on campus or looking for any type of leadership opportunity just to get out there and develop some good skills, public speaking, teamwork, this is a great opportunity. These are some of the positions we have open. Our shadow positions basically mean you'll be shadowing, someone is already in that position, but we only have them for a semester. So you'd take over that, you'd be shadowing them for a semester and then you take over during the spring. So if you're interested, you can scan the code right there on the right.
Yeah, and we also have our social media, and if you want to see the link tree to those links, then you can scan the code right here.
If you have any questions for us about anything, you can always email us at info@csulbmaes.org, or you can talk to any officer and they can direct you to the proper information.
So you guys are attending our GBM today. We're having Lyka Gutierrez. Sorry, I messed up. And our topic is going to be the resume workshop. So we'll hand it off to Lyka so she can present.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. And do not worry, I have no idea how to pronounce my last name because I grew up in
India,
and no one really knew my name. So I
just always mess up like the pronunciations. I have like a hard time doing the Gutierrez. I don't know, it's hard.
No worries. Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and I'm so excited to help you guys out with your resumes. Quickly going through, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. I'll ask after every slide if there's any questions. So just wait till the end of the slide so I can get through all the information. Or if you want to wait till the very end, we'll take questions then. I am going to be reviewing some people's resumes if you choose to do that. If one of the officers can drop that link into the chat box so they can drop their resumes in there. I could do it in front of people or I can do it in private. Either one is fine. Just make sure your resume is in there because I'm only looking at resumes in that Dropbox, not being emailed to me at this moment. You're welcome to take my email as well if you have any questions going from Boeing to interviewing, resumes again, anything to help you with your career. I'm more than willing to help with that. All right. Just quickly going about myself. I graduated from CSULB in 2019. I got my offer to the Boeing Company and GMIS conference in 2018. I believe the conference is happening right now virtually. So if you're not attending, I totally suggest attending. I think they have 2 weekends that they're doing this. I work as a maintenance programs engineer for the 737 NG and MAX planes. What maintenance programs engineering means, what we do, for example, is when you see cars, you have to change the oil for cars every 3 months. That 3 months, that interval, we're the ones who set that intervals for all the maintenance that are happening within the airplanes. Not just for the 737, but we do have different teams who do it for the other fleets. Like I said before, I'm from Indiana. You got a bunch of people who do not know how to roll their R's pronouncing my name, and that's how I learned how to say my name. So the way I say my name, I know it's incorrect. I say Lyka Gutierrez. Very bland, I know. Very sad. Don't worry. We don't even like my last name. I go with my mother's maiden name. Just kidding. um, I was in MAES, especially in your chapter. I love MAES. Out of all the orgs I've ever been in, I love MAES. MAES was my favorite org. I'll tell you more why I like MAES later. But here are some of the positions I held in MAES. In 2018, this was my last position. I was a MAES Region 1 student representative. I represented 13 plus schools in Region 1 from NorCal to SoCal. One Arizona school. I did represent a school in Las Vegas, but I don't think they were active during my time. And this was actually the last year when region reps were ever asked for MAES. I think they're trying to start it back up again. So if you are interested, do it. It's such a fun thing to do because you see MAES as a whole instead of just your chapter, and it's one of the coolest things you'll ever experience. As a MAES in our chapter at CSULB, my last position I ever held was the vice president position. This position, what I did, I made an event called Night with Professionals. This is an event that's still going on where I bring alumni one night and all the students who wanted to meet these alumni and just put them at a table and have dinner together and kind of get to know MAES back in the day and what they did and letting those alumni know what MAES is doing currently right now. It's like really a cool night and you get a lot of knowledge passed down through that event. Another thing I was in, I think it was only for a semester, it was like mid-semester. I made a position for myself because I made a junior chapter at Woodrow Wilson High School. I think they died after I left that position, but it was really fun. I was able to engage in them and do outreach events with them. It was pretty cool. They even had their own mini science extravaganza, which what we do in a larger scale in college. Another thing I did in school just before I left, SACE, Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, I was the co-founder and president for the chapter at Cal State Long Beach. So you see them running around. I was the one who brought them there. Another thing I did besides school, I'm currently involved in 3 organizations within my company, which is Boeing Familia, Boeing Asian Professional Association, and Boeing Native American Network. These are considered employee resource groups. A lot of Fortune 500 companies have these groups. They're representing all minorities and identities within the company. So they're not only just this, there's ones for the LGBTQ community. There's ones called Generation to Generation to bridge the gap between generational people and so on. So there's a lot of them at the Boeing company that you can find your fit in. Or you don't even have to find your fit. You can just join an org that you really just want to know more about that you don't identify with. The last thing that I do currently right now outside of work, I started a SACE LA professional chapter. We're still going. We are on pause because of the pandemic right now, and we're just planning for next year to hopefully bring it back out again. So this picture on the right is me doing an outreach event at a school that we did together when I was a vice president, and I was the presenter that time around. It was a really fun event. I think we did elephant toothpaste. Yes, that's what we did. Did elephant toothpaste. And then this me back in the day when I was in my prime as a vice president. All right, so before we get into it, I want to know more about you guys. I want to know where you guys are at with your life. So before anything that's highlighted in yellow, please go into the chat and tell me about yourself, your name, your major, a fun fact about yourself that you are okay to share with, and why did you join MAES? It's really important to know why you joined MAES. MAES does have a lot to offer, and I know these officers are working really hard to give you guys stuff to push you through your career or get you where you need to be with your GPA and so on. So just go through the chat. I'm gonna read some out loud because I'm so curious. ME, okay, cool. So I'm an ME as well. That's what I studied. I feel like the fun fact's kind of delaying people. It's okay. While you guys are thinking, the reason why I joined MAES was actually, I was in ship first, and then I saw this guy trying to run away, duct taped to a chair. And I saw a bunch of people from MAES drag him back into the MAES room. And I was so curious, like, who are these people duct taping their president to a chair? And I thought it was so funny. And I thought it was really cool. I was in SHIB and like these people aren't joking. They don't do stuff. I'm not talking ish, but like they just didn't do stuff like the people that are in it. You know what I mean? So like I went to MAES. One of my friends who got me into SHIP actually left the ship and left me there and went to MAES, and I saw her in there. And I just fell in love with the people. The people were just amazing. They were really nice. I didn't identify as Latino or Hispanic, but they really brought me in. They taught me about their culture and their families and their lives. And it was really cool to me because I never had any friends that were Latino or were really part of their Latino roots in Indiana. So coming here, like all I have were Latino friends because of MAES. It was one of the coolest things ever. Okay, so we got a summer in aerospace. ME, Ryan's in ME as well. Hello, I am a chemical engineer. That's cool. I don't want to pause ugly, okay. Alejandra's pre-aerospace. Okay, cool. Like welding, oh, that's awesome. I don't think I'll ever weld anything in my life. I like machining though, machining's fun. I like machining metals. I think I made one of my classes, we made a plug. My plug was legit. I think I have my plug here still somewhere. I'll show you. It's like you have to show the tolerance between like the actual plug and where it's going into, so that when you drop the plug in, it slides down. And that was what you had to do. You had to do like a milli whatever, like it's really, really close. And I got a passing grade for that. It was awesome. Join MAES to find projects and make friends. Cool, cool, cool. Projects. Well, you guys know what you guys need to do, officers. All right, the next one, I just really want to know where you are with your resumes. So ignore number one. What's your number two, number three? If you don't have a resume, let me know. If you don't feel like you want to share that, if you're embarrassed to, you don't have to. I don't want to put the pressure on you, but I just kind of want to know where everyone's at with resumes. So like if you need a new one, if you have problems, if you never made one, what's been delaying you to make that resume? I just want to kind of know where you guys are at. Not all at once, you know. Oh, no worries. I had a resume. I started my resume in 16. It was like the crappiest resume, but I still got that job. But it gets better with time. As long as you have a resume, I think it's a little bit better because you don't have to start seriously from scratch. It's like the worst. Okay, reformatting your resume. Okay. I would like for someone to see my resume in a new lens. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Please keep posting. If you're still posting, I still wanna know. I would like someone to. Okay, so what we're gonna be going over, we're gonna be starting from scratch for everyone. I'm gonna go through the basics of a resume, like what are the components for a resume and things like that. What are some add-ons that aren't really in a resume and some new stuff that came out recently, maybe the past 5 years that I've started to see in resumes, and also what I've done in my resume. How to write an objective. Hardest thing to do, never had an objective in mind and I gave up on it. So I did all the research as a professional to make sure you guys don't give up on making your objective. Another thing is we're going to talk about if GPA does matter and when not to add your GPA on your resume. And then we're going to do the reviews for resumes. I'm cut for time. I have a hard stop at 6. I might be able to push it 6:15 maybe. But if that does happen, I will love to meet up with you guys and talk about your resumes, one-on-one if that does have to happen, okay? All right, so I am going to exit out. All right, so the basic layout of a resume. So this is my last resume you see on the right. I am missing some stuff because I don't have certain stuff, so it wasn't in my resume. But the basic layout people will have is the objective first. There's an asterisk sign, I'll talk more about that. Education, clearance, skill sets, work experience, projects, leadership, organization, and community service. This is the basic things you need to have in your resume. One of the things for objective, again, I don't have an objective on mine, especially when you go through career fairs. I highly suggest not having an objective for that. But if you're going to a career fair and you know what company you are looking for and applying for, then it will be great to have an objective because you are looking for those people. But if you're just walking around just giving out your resume, I highly suggest not having that. Education is normally up top. It's like the first thing to look at. I'll go into detail for each of the components that I just listed there. Whatever you put in there, like for work experience and projects, most likely you'll have some dates on there. Make sure it's descending chronological order, making the top one the most current place that you're working for or the most recent place you worked at, and then previous down. And I'll explain more in detail, like what can you put for your work experience and whatnot too. But overall, if you are a freshman right now, it is okay to have high school work experience, leadership, organizations, community service, stuff like that there, just because you just don't have any experience right now to actually put on there. But if you had a lot to do in high school, you're welcome to put that there. If you're a sophomore, you had all freshman year to actually put something under your belt that's in your college career. So you shouldn't have any high school stuff really listed in your resume. Unless it's something like really bomb, like you were able to internship at Boeing, like in a high school level, and you're applying to Boeing again, and it just looks really good. Make sure your order can vary depending on what's more important to you. As you can see for me, I didn't have a lot of work experience. I had 0 projects and things like that. I thought my skill sets were a little bit more important than the work experience I had. So that's why my order's like this. So you are welcome to change this up as you see fit, but always remember to have education up top because they do want to see if you are pursuing a major in engineering, since you're applying to engineering internships and full-time positions. Is there any questions before I move on? I'm going to go over in detail all of these, but I just want to make sure. No? Okay. Oops.
I did have a question.
Yeah.
About, so we can put our clearances on resumes?
Yes, you can put what clearance you have. It actually looks really good to put clearances on your resumes. That means the company doesn't have to pay for you. And they really want to make sure they know. The thing that you can't put on your resumes is like projects and stuff that was like proprietary that only was accessed through your clearance. That's stuff that you possibly shouldn't be putting on. And if you do put that on your resume, you might want to check with that company's HR to make sure the data you're sharing isn't proprietary data. Because I bet you could say what position you're in and what you generally did, but you can't go into details. But you should work that out with the HR people.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, so we'll start with education. I'm going to keep flipping back and forth with my resume so you can see what I'm talking about. But for education, you're going to list all the colleges you've attended, not your high school, all the colleges. So if you're at a city college and you transferred in, make sure your city college is on there. If you only took city colleges to get certificates or associate's degrees, still put it on there. It's good to see everything you did with your education, especially if it's surrounding engineering. Your GPA, if you do not know, CSULB, my CSULB has I believe, 3 different GPAs, but the most important ones is your overall GPA and your major GPA. There's a CSULB GPA, and I guess you can use that, especially if you're a transfer student, because it just, you basically have like a 4.0 or something. Just make sure you label it as that. So it's like you're not lying, but you're kind of playing the system. So like if your overall GPA is lower than your major because you just bombed some GEs, use your major GPA, and then just vice versa. If your GEs brought your GPA up and you're just bombing major, just use your overall. Make sure to list the major you're pursuing. Please do not list your major. It's really key, and that especially they look at that just to make sure if they are looking for EEs within their company or not, and so on. We talked about that. Put your graduation year. Do not put I'm a freshman, sophomore, etc. That is a better way to explain where you are with your college career, because you can be a super senior and this is like your 6th year in school and you just put senior. Like, no, like just put your graduation year. It's a little better. If you don't know when your graduation year is, my CSULB does have that listed when your expected graduation date with all of it listed. It's okay to change it depending if you're graduating sooner or later. Just make sure that's listed. Any educational type accomplishments or scholarships that you got through CSULB or even your other college experiences, make sure to list that there as well. It looks really good to see that you are doing really well in school and being able to showcase all the accomplishments surrounding that. Another thing, going to clearances, make sure to list the type of clearance you have. If your clearance has an expiration date on it, I'm not sure because I don't have clearances. Please make sure to list that as well so they can know if they have to renew it for you or not. And then the next one is skill sets. Skill sets is a list of skills that you have obtained throughout your life. I do list some skill sets from high school just because they're skill sets I'm still, I know that I can still use and utilize, and I'll show you some of the skills that I had. But for skill sets, you can list the coding languages you know, applications that you're really good with. Don't list every Microsoft program like, oh, I'm proficient in Excel, Words, and so on. Just use the umbrella term. You should know how to use all of the Microsoft programs. It's okay to list old school skills like drafting. I knew how to do drafting. I learned that in middle school. And I put that on my resume because it kind of showcased that I kind of knew how CAD came to be and how the application is really utilized and how understanding the projections and third-person view and stuff like that. Another thing to list also is the skills itself and not the equipment that you perform those skills on. So let's say that you're able to, I don't know, doing quality control, and you're able to use like testing instruments and things like that. Instead of listing the test instruments that you're able to use, list the actions you're able to do that involves that testing instrument. So like on the bottom, soldering and not a soldering iron as the skill. I will go back and ask questions. I'm just going to show you what I meant about skill sets. So for my skill sets here, I listed, I got this from college, high school, internship, high school, internship, high school, college, and then I think this was college. So I did list a couple of the softwares I was using that I could still use today, that I still have knowledge based on. So that's the only thing that you don't have to really gauge yourself that you can't put that on there because you used it in high school. If you're still able to use that skill set, then put it on your resume. Is there any questions before I move on with education, clearance, and skill sets? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. All right, so work experience. So the way you phrase your work experience on that first bulletin here, you're gonna put the name of the company you worked for, the highest position you held, not all the positions you were in, and the start and the end of your employment. So make sure to remember when you do that. I highly suggest having a Word doc with all this info so that like 3 years later, you want to find a new job, you don't have to like dig through your memory to figure out when you started that job. Make sure that each bullet point states what you did at the company and your position and not what the whole team did that you're working on or what the company does. It's really important, especially if you work in a team-based things, to always say what you did and not to express what your whole group did. This is where you be selfish, is on your resumes and interviews. Make sure if you do have multiple positions you've held, you're welcome to put that for other bullet points, like you held a lower position, you were like, I'm trying to think of low positions. That was, I can't even think of it. But you're welcome to write if there was something that you really did that's memorable about a position you used to hold in that company, you're welcome to list that as well. Make sure for each bullet point under the position you're talking about, your first word is an action verb. And make sure it's in the same tense for everything within this resume. I highly suggest everything you write in your resume is in past tense, even though you're working at a current position. That was something I didn't do with my resume, and I'll show you right now. So this first one right here, I was working at Matco Forge. I was assisting, so I should have put assisted. Assisted quality control team in observing and reporting deformed items during forging process. This is how you should be formatting all of it. Make sure that each action verb you have for each bullet point is different. If you need a similar, use a similar word, don't use the same one. It just reads better. Using the same tenses and action verbs, it lets the person who's reading your resume read it faster and get through what they need to look at your resume to distinguish if they want to interview or not. All right, so going to projects, make sure to list the project name, the date that your project was complete. If you had a lead position, list the position you had. This is what I meant when I say lead position, not really the position of like, yeah, you might have like a lead position at like a classroom project, but if you're like at something like the beach launch team, they have different lead positions. Like there's one lead for propulsion, one for structures, and so on. It looks really great to showcase that. The same for work experience for the first 3 bullet points. Make sure you state what you did and not what your whole team did to support the project. Action verb, same tenses. Right under the project name, like on like indent it. Write a brief 1 to 2 sentence of what the project is, just a quick summary, so that they know exactly what it is if they can't really tell by the name of the project. Make sure maybe add like a sentence as well or 2 on, or you can actually put it as bullet points if the actions you did resulted in positively in the project. Make sure to list those results as well. They really want to know what you've been doing within the project, not just what the project's all about. I have an example to show for that too. And if you have a project that you've done a lot of work on and you know recruiters are going to be interested in it, and for sure in the interview they might ask you about the project, if you have like what's it called, a technical poster, or make a portfolio. If you don't have a technical poster, have that printed out and take it with you to career fairs and to the interview. It looks really well, especially if those projects are really close to what that company you're applying for is doing. It just looks like you really know what you're talking about, and you can talk more about your project, and that would look really well. I'm going to show you really quick about projects because I don't have projects in my resume. Someone sent me theirs, and he is a MAES professional as well, but he was from Fullerton. So this is what his projects were. He did a roulette development in Python. He implemented a game project that follows classical roulettes, accounts, and all inside and outside bets. So he told me that whatever I say is better because when he made this, he didn't he's not proud of his resume, but he wanted to show his last resume he made as a college student. So highly suggest making sure to add the date the project was completed and also putting any lead positions and more details about the project if they can't understand it from just that title of the project. Is there any questions before moving on?
I do have a question. How many like projects should we put on there? Like, should we just pick, like, how should we pick that out, I guess? Because we probably do a lot of projects for some like majors, you know?
Mm-hmm. So for projects, it's really up to you. It's how you gauge the importance of the project. If it was something like you just have to write a paper and you aren't really doing anything technical and it's more of like working problems and you just write a paper about it, I wouldn't say you would add it. If it's something you actually did some like work, you got a CAD, you had to do some testing, you had to do live testing, I would totally keep it on there. Over the years, if you have better projects that supersede the projects you have, like you had like a small, like what he did, like a small roulette table, and this next project, he was able to code a whole video game like storyline that's like a really long storyline, like Zelda or something, then you should just replace it with that. I would say if you're constantly having new work experiences and projects, I just say keep replacing them, especially if you have better opportunities going forward. If you have something that's like a work experience, like you're applying for, let's say you're applying for Boeing. I was interning at Boeing as a high school student. I wasn't really looking at Boeing anymore until like maybe my senior year. I wanted to apply again as an entry level position. I would add that Boeing internship back onto my resume, even though it's back in high school. It just looks so good to make sure they know that, yeah, I was part of the Boeing team once. Just bring me back. And the same for the projects too. Like if there's a project, it's literally you're tailoring.
I have that problem too.
Tailoring your resume to the company you're working for. So if you're applying for Boeing and you have your recent one was more structures, but you had like previous, like your freshman year, you were in like beach launch team and things like that. Keep that recent one you have, but make sure the beach launch team is in there so they know you had experience with aerospace type of projects. So it's really gauging what you're applying to. Again, you're always tailoring your resume. So highly suggest having a resume with everything on it. And then every time you're applying for something, you start tailoring that resume to that position you're applying to. Or if you're trying to have a resume that's like an overall resume that you're going to take to career fairs and things like that, make sure you want to hit the most best work experience and projects you've been in on your resume. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So just try to like update our projects based on like whether it describes your skills a little better, or like so it's not redundant and you have like too many of the same like projects showing the same skills. So I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you have like, if it's like the same type of project and you're doing the same skills, just replace it with the most recent. Unless you're doing a higher position, then replace it with a higher position. Anything that should be better.
Okay. And so I have one more question, sorry. So the resume is like a guide, like it's like a starting point, right? So every time we like apply to a company, we have to add like unique things that that company would want to see in our resume, right?
What they want.
Because you're saying, yeah.
And the most recent.
Okay, and the most recent. Okay.
Any more questions before I move on? Okay. All right, so the last three that I have in my resume is organization, leadership, and community service. To be very honest with you, it's interchangeable depending on what content you have listed. Always remember that recruiters, and even mostly recruiters, they're gonna be reading your resume within 30 seconds or less. So anything on the top is going to be looked at first, and then they're just kind of slowly not look at your resume. That's pretty much how it goes. Depending on which of these categories are more important describing you, and you have more experience in certain categories, I suggest putting that there as first before the other two. Don't repeat the same duties within these topics. These topics are super similar. Just make sure that if you have certain duties within an organization, I had just be an organization. If there's something that you did for the organization that's super awesome and big, and you want to make sure you highlight that, you put that under leadership and just put leadership in front. And all you got to do is maybe like list the positions you have. I'll show you what I did, and this is my decision on how I organized all that stuff. So going through organizations, if you are a paid member, don't put an organization you hang out at. If you are a paid member or you're an official member, if they don't take membership dues, then you could put that on your resume. If you are involved in an organization, but you're not on the membership list, you could put whatever you did for that organization into the leadership position. I did that for SHIP. I wasn't in anything for SHIP, but I took lead positions for like events, and I would put that in leadership. If you have positions in your organization, list all the positions you had in that org. It looks really good to see your progress in organizations. And the great thing about organizations is that a lot of professionals are still involved in orgs. So listing the orgs that you were in and what they did, if that person who's interviewing by chance or the recruiter by chance is in that org, most likely that they would want to help you a little bit better. Yeah, I know it's not as cool, but it'll get your foot in the door. Make sure to list the duties that you have. But the biggest thing that you should be writing is like, what did you do in your position that sets you apart from all the other people who held that position? And if you never thought of that, I highly suggest thinking of it now, because it's really important to always want to elevate the org that you're in, and to always look for ways to bring yourself up and to put that on your resume. If the organization, like national or the actual chapter, is giving out any type of awards and you get one, make sure to write that down as well. It looks really good that you're getting awards along with being involved. Going into leadership. So leadership positions you held through colleges. So it can be things like a group project, coordinating events. It can be within school or outside of school. It just has to be within the years you've been in college. Again, don't add anything from high school unless you're a freshman. Make sure everything that you talk about for leadership is what you did and not what the group you were supporting did. And then community service. This can be involved with church, school, or charity events. I do believe community service is important to list on there. You can combine it with another category if you don't have a lot of community service. I think I listed one, but I'm not sure what it was. Let's go see. So for my leadership, I did put MAES here. And what I did was, I did list the region rep, but I list in more detail of what I was managing. So I oversaw 16 MAES chapters in these states, provided aid and contact and guided for MAES National. Which is another one. Directed a team of 5 students to write a proposal about deployment of a solar cell mechanism to Mars for the NASA Challenge 2017. When did I do that? I don't even remember that. And then organize and plan an event and celebrate and recognize the work of MAES, CSULB MAES alumni and what they have done for the MAES chapter. Okay, so we'll skip down to here. Again, I put organization community service as one. I guess I didn't have community service. But what's different from what I listed here to here, I was a past vice president that planned and organized the first alumni night. So it was basically this, but I wrote out it here. Again, you shouldn't be repeating. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that they weren't really reading this. So I made sure my leadership was first, because these were the accomplishments I was most proud of for them to know about. Is there any questions about these before I move on? So now we're going to talk about add-ons. I broke down all the basic components and stuff like that. These add-ons to your resume, it's going to make it look a little bit cleaner. Hopefully it will help gauging you without even meeting you. So the first one that you can add to your resume, instead of a skill set, you can put a skill bar. This is mostly done for people who are in CS to gauge how proficient they are within the coding languages they use. If you're able to incorporate that for like your proficiency in CAD or like different CAD programs or different, I don't know other majors besides mine, I'm so sorry. But you can use this to gauge your proficiency on anything that you're doing and just showcasing that. Another thing as well is a QR code. This is what I have on my resume. I put a QR code on my resume because I wanted people to know who I am, what I look like. And just reading my paper, they won't really see who I am. I know people keep telling me to make a LinkedIn account, so I made one just to put it on my resume. Haven't touched my LinkedIn account since I graduated because I don't like LinkedIn. It's like another Facebook. I don't want another Facebook. But those are the two things that you can add on to your resume that can kind of spice it up, showcase who you are a little bit better. And yeah, is there any questions about these two things that you can add to your resume? Okay, I'll speed up a bit. All right, another thing to make your resume stand out, you can change the fonts of your resume. You can change the type of paper you use. You don't have to do the standard paper, printing paper, the same like Times New Roman fonts. Play around with it. You can play around with the like how big your fonts are. And that can like organize your paper. You could put lines in your paper to organize it better. And it just makes it stand out. What can make it stand out a lot is the weight of your paper. I wouldn't say scented. I put that there as a joke because I like Legally Blonde. But if you want to spray your like cologne on it, and just like it's like your natural.
I wonder what would happen if you did.
I was a punk. I always wanted to scented my resumes just so they know it's me, and like I had to wear it too. So
yeah,
I didn't have the balls to do it. So if you have the balls to do it, it would really set you apart. Just make sure it's something that's not like heavy cologne smell, like something fresh, something like it smells nice.
Like inviting, right?
Yeah, not like a heavy cologne. And I know like having people like heavy colognes, but just I would say default to clean sheets or something like that's like not that heavy. And there's other ways to do it. You can put gloss on your paper. I really think the weight is like the biggest one. You can change the color. You don't have to use white paper. You can use ivory. Ivory is like pretty bomb, and it could stick. It shows when it's in a stack of like resumes. It really stands out. For the fonts, the reason why I say changing fonts will stand out is because people are still reading these resumes, and you're reading the same font and stuff. And to me, if I read this resumes over and over again, I would just get tired of it. And I'm just looking for like keywords and stuff. But if I see other fonts, I think it's a little bit refreshing to read through. I'll show you mine really fast. So as you can see, I use bold prints, different font sizes. I think I did use Times New Roman because I wasn't that cool back in the day. I use lines to separate my resume so it's easier and clean cut so that if they're looking for a certain category to see something, they're able to see it. I made sure everything is uniform, like everything is lined up, except for here, oh my God. Yeah, so just making sure to utilize the margins as well. Don't use the default margins, like use as much, like write into the margins as much as you can so that you have more space to add things into it. Basic rule of thumb with resumes, every 10 years of experience adds another page to your resume. So if you don't really have enough experience, you shouldn't be having 2 pages. If you're like a person who's kept doing projects year after year after year, like for 10 years, then yeah, maybe add a second page if you're still in college. But other than that, as a college student, you shouldn't be having 2 pages. All right, is there any questions before we move to objective?
I do have a question about the appearance. Is it okay to include color in our
So I've been seeing color, dude. Like I've seen like recent resumes where people would put color on it,
Yes.
stuff like it's. I don't know, dude. Like I'm not offended by it. I bet like old school people would be. I think new hip managers take it as like you're trying to be not only outgoing but trying to stand out. Whereas like I believe older professions are just like, what are you doing? This isn't
Yeah.
professional. So it's I would say keep asking that question every time you meet professionals and it
Yeah.
gets to you. And that's how all of us as professionals got our resumes to be. We kept asking different professionals to look at our resumes. Like half the people told me not to put in an objective, the other half just told me put in an objective. Other half told me that skill sets is first. Other people tell me education's first. Like everyone has their opinion about resumes, and it's stressful, yeah, but it's like what you think, how you want to present yourself.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna write an objective. So the basic format of an objective is this first line here: to obtain a blank at blank, to work with blank, with my experience and or skills in blank. So that's the basic way you're going to be writing it. So filling in 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, starting with the first one, what position are you applying for? So list the name, the position of it. Also name like if it's internship or full time. If the name has like internship on it, you don't have to put it again. If there is like an identification number on the position you're applying to, put it there. Especially if you're applying online. Just rewinding a bit before I keep going. When you apply online, it's totally different. You have to tailor your resume every single time you apply online. And you tailor your resume to have keywords that are listed in the job description into your resume, because they're going to be looking for those keywords. They're going to run the system and it's going to pull it out. So having the requisite number is can be possibly one of the keywords they set to see if you're interested in the position. But yeah, just letting you know. Okay. The next one is number 2. This is the company you're applying for. Make sure you write the whole company name. My company name is not Boeing. It is the Boeing company. So make sure you put the full name of the company on your resume. I think Raytheon, it's not just Raytheon, it's Raytheon Technologies Incorporated. So just make sure you put the full name. Don't give these resumes with the objective that's tailored to a certain company, to a different company. It just looks so bad. They'll just look at you like, well, why don't you just go to that company? Why did you come here to give me your resume? So if you have a general resume, like the ones you use for career fairs and stuff, don't put an objective. If you do put an objective, just say to obtain blank to work with this instead of adding the company name on there. All right, so number 3, so you kind of want to do some research on the company, especially with the position you're applying to. List like company projects or types of projects you want to be involved in that the company does. List current or past projects you want to be involved in, or type of things that you know the team is looking for in that job description that you want to work in, especially like something that within the job description that really promoted you to really want to apply. Make sure whatever it is to formulate that within your objective. And then the next one, for number 4, is you're listing your experience or skills that can apply to that project that you want to work in. List the skills that you currently have and that while you're applying for that position. This helps majors. So if you are in a major that isn't really something that the company's working for, so let's say you're applying for Boeing, but you're in like biomedical engineering. I don't know why you're applying for Boeing, but if let's say you're in biomedical engineering and you want to apply for Boeing, what skill sets did you learn as a biomedical engineer that would be applicable to the projects that you're interested in within that company? So that really helps for those people who are really trying to get into places that most likely they won't open the doors to. So I have like this, I just wrote this up. And I only wrote this because I know what my job is. When I was in college, I did not know how to read the job descriptions because they would use these big words, and I'm just like, I don't know what you're asking. I'm just gonna apply, and that's a big no-no. But really try to figure out what they're asking for those job descriptions. But so this is for my position I work for. So this is how I would write it if I had the knowledge I had now and applying for the position I have now. To attain an entry-level maintenance programs engineering position at the Boeing company, to work with regulatory and operators to develop safety and cost-efficient maintenance with my experience in quality control and non-conformance reports to customers. So remember in my resume, I was in Macro Forge and I was in the quality control team. So I would write reports to customers about pieces that they ordered that was non-conforming and seeing if they could still buy it off of us. This was something that what I was applying for at Boeing, they really liked because I had interaction with customers and I knew how to do quality control as well, and write quality control reports. So that's why they really liked me. The team that hired me, it wasn't this team. They stole me from that team. Right before I got in, this team picked me up instead of the team that hired me. But they really, really loved that I had experience with customers and I was able to figure out the non-conformance and reporting that to them. So that's really the basics on writing an objective. Is there any questions on this? Okay, no? All right. So another thing I do want to talk about is the relevance. I kept saying it again. It doesn't hurt your chances if you don't have an objective or not. It's really just letting the hiring manager know your intentions of applying. And it's really, really needed if you're in a major that is not applicable to the job you're trying to apply to, but you're interested in. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna go into GPAs now. All right, GPAs is a big topic for me. People always tell me you should keep your GPAs on, you should remove it at a certain point. So this is what I compiled due to everyone I've talked to. So when you add the GPA, if you're between a 4.0 and a 3.0, keep your GPA there. If your GPA is a 3.0 to a 2.5, you should keep it there. Only I would say you would add that GPA there if you're going to career fairs though, because they'll really ask, they'll think of the worst. The recruiters think of the worst if you don't have your GPA listed. And I found that later because I had a 2.8, as you can see. Sorry, I know I keep flipping, but I want to make sure you guys see it. I was a 2.8 when I graduated. I was actually 2.7. But I was a 2.8 when I was applying to stuff. That was the last time I used my resume. And I kept it off. And a professional told me that, no, you should keep it on because if you keep it off, they just think of the worst. Like you have a 1.0 or a 2 or a 2.0. So make sure when you're going at career fairs, you have at least your GPA listed. But make sure when you have your GPA listed and it's that low, what is your justification for your GPA? But if you have that type of low GPA, don't add it when you apply online. Yes, they're gonna ask for it again, your GPA, because they make you re-enter your resume for some reason into the system along with adding your resume. And they'll ask for your GPA then, and maybe that's how you get cut. But if they don't ask it and it's just your resume, they will look at the system will scan your resume and like if the GPA is low, they'll cut it. What else? Okay, drawing a blank. I'll come back to it if I remember. So when not to add your GPA. If you're a 2.49 and to a 0, I highly suggest not adding it. Yes, you could still get a job with that GPA. Yes, you could still be an engineer with that GPA. You just got to start from the bottom up. So that means you're going to really small companies, not Fortune 500 companies, local companies, and working your way up with experience and then applying to the companies you want to work for. That's how you're going to navigate your career with a low GPA, unless you got contacts that really trust you and really believe that you have the work ethic to actually work at their company, regardless of what your GPA was. So they might ask why you don't have your GPA. You should have a really, really good reason why your GPA is so low. Make sure within your resume you have stuff to make up for it. Yeah, I have a low GPA, but I was a lead for this project and we won, this competition that we were in. You gotta hustle for it, because they do really gauge your GPA. If you don't have a good GPA, everything else needs to look bomb as hell. Do not add on. Again, don't add this on for online applications for sure. You might get cut off if they ask you to type it into their system. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Okay, so I had a 2.8 GPA. I had to have a reason why my GPA was a 2.8. I actually have test anxiety, and I never thought it was bad enough where I should get like the school help where they let you have more testing time. You know what I mean? Whatever that thing they do for those who need more help with testing. But I did have test anxiety, so I would tell them that I knew the concepts during classes. I was able to ace these homeworks, but when it came to testing time, I would be sitting there for 10 to 20 minutes panicking before I started testing. Yeah, so that's what I said. I think he tested me on that because during my because I got the interview for it, and when they were interviewing me, they asked me like, "Oh, what's your favorite class?" And like I told them like, "Oh, I liked materials lab, right? Because I got to make stuff." And he was like, "Okay, draw the stress strain diagram." I was like, "Oh my god!" I knew what it looked like, and I thought it ended there. And he's like, "Okay, explain what each part of the diagram is." I had no idea what each part of the diagram's name was, but I knew what each part of that diagram did. So it kind of showcased like I was like crumbling under pressure, like I was forgetting things, but I knew the concepts. I knew what it was. So be prepared if you ever get that question. So if anyone asks you about your favorite class, it's not a nice question. They're gonna judge you on your technical knowledge on it. But yeah, all right. Other GPAs, if you have a bad GPA, like I said about the overall GPAs, between major and the school GPA and the overall GPA, you're able to interchange them. Just put whatever's the highest as your GPA. Yeah. Is there any questions about GPAs on your resume? No? Okay. All right, so I'm going to review resumes. Did everyone put in their resume?